This is another Frank collab.
This is before I knew anything about nutrition, so we stop at a garage. My pre-match meal for the trial was a can of Coke and a Mars bar.
Right.
I believe that the director of football knew what he was talking about, so he said, "You're not going to be good enough to be a pro." So I went, okay. So then I stopped playing because I thought, well, if I can't do that, then I'll do something else.
Finding the love of the game. How important was that for you?
I didn't start kicking the ball around to be a professional. I started kicking the ball around because it was fun. I'd go in on a Thursday and say, "How do you want your boots done for the weekend?" They need to be cleaned, and then they need to be dried. And then if they weren't packed at the right time, you were in trouble. My thought was, I need to become a pro, whatever that looks like.
You've had all those ups and downs, the demons and like, I'm not good enough. You said you wish you could have bottled that for certain occasions.
I've never, ever seen a professional contract in my life.
Yeah.
All I did is flick to the back page pretty much and looked at what the money said. And the money was double what I was on. So
Yeah.
it was £90 a week. Double your money at any
Yeah.
age. I cracked it. I was a winger. So the wingers are not my friends now. I always wondered why I couldn't get addicted to something that was healthy.
And it's hard when you're kind of your worst own enemy as
Yes.
well. You're battling not only like critics and really honest feedback people who are in charge, but you're battling yourself.
Maybe he didn't like my body language, maybe he didn't like some of the things I did, but I knew that I'd given everything to get to that point. I thought, well, I'm just going to show him that he's wrong.
Welcome back to Stand Up Again with Sophie and Nick Ratto. Today's guest was a professional footballer for over 17 years, playing for the biggest clubs in England. He even played in the FA Cup final against Ronaldo, Roy Keane, Ruud van Nistelrooy, some of the biggest names in the footballing world.
And he shares today that behind the scenes, he was struggling with negative self-talk and also gambling addictions. He's found purpose after football. Today's guest is Paul Ifill. Welcome to the show, Paul. Thank you so much for coming on today. Now, you must be someone who can handle an enormous amount of pressure, being a 17-year professional footballer.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to start by going back to the early days.
Yep.
And talk us through your drive, your work ethic to get to a pro level.
I think it's always easy to look back when you're in the moment. You don't even realise that you probably have any of that. You're just kind of, I started playing football, I think 7, 8 years old, watching my dad play, and you go, "Oh, this is pretty cool. Go and watch his games. I'd like to do that one day." But you watch big games, but you don't really think, "Oh, I'm going to do any of that." You're sort of thinking, "Oh, it'd be nice to play at Dad's level, the local level." He's a bit of a local hero,
Right.
where we lived in Brighton, and I thought, "Oh, that would be pretty cool." And I think once I got to sort of 12, 13, and we're getting into different rep teams, and people were telling me that I could play a little bit, you sort of start then going, "Oh, maybe there's a little bit more to this." And then it's like, what do I need to do to get from where I am here to the next level? And I think Mum and Dad always instilled a work ethic in me. We didn't come from money or anything like that, so we had to sort of work hard they had to work hard for everything we had.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of rubbed off, and it was just like, if you want to do anything in life, you need to work hard and earn the right to get there. So I think I just always took that into football. And my drive was really just wanting to almost master the ball. I love the game, and it was like, if you can make the ball do what you want, the game's better, it's more fun.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I just wanted to have more fun.
Yeah, and that's really great to hear that, because what age were you when, because in the systems here in New Zealand, it's obviously very different to in England, when you've got like the straight pathway to the pro levels and things. So when you get tapped on the shoulder here in New Zealand, there's almost like 1 or 2 or 3 extra steps to go. When was it? What age were you sort of shoulder tapped? If you can remember.
Probably 13, 14. I was getting, so you play for your club, and then you get picked for sort of Brighton reps, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that would have been sort of about 12, 13. I got into Brighton reps with a couple of other decent players that went on to play pro. Gareth Barry, who played 800 games in the Premier League. He was in that group.
Yeah.
There was a few others in there. So you sort of start thinking, "Oh, maybe I can go somewhere." But it wasn't until I think I started playing men's football at 16, and I was scoring goals in the men's team.
Right.
So there was a few newspapers writing articles that, young kid burst onto the scene, blah 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 blah. And it was like, okay, this is cool. I ended up actually getting sacked from my first job. I was working in in a kitchen at a school in Rottingdean, just outside of Brighton.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to have a shift, and I got called up for the first team.
Okay.
And I told the shift that I was sick, and I went out and scored a goal on my debut. And there's a big picture of me on the back page. I got a phone call from them telling me not to come in again. They still owe me my last paycheck, actually.
Yeah.
But there you go. So yeah, it was probably 16 where people started saying maybe you could be a professional.
Yeah.
I was really lucky. The club I was at was called Saltdean United. They had a couple of former pros within their sort of coaching ranks. A guy called Dennis Burnett said, I think you can go to the next level. I'm going to start getting you trials. You need to keep doing your bit and I'll do mine.
Yeah.
Got me trials at West Ham, got me trials at Millwall, went to the West Ham trial, had a really good trial, actually scored a hat-trick in my first game and scored another one in the second game, and I thought, I've cracked it, surely this is enough. And they came to me afterwards and said, look, we just don't think you're better than what we've got. And as it happens, they were absolutely right, because some of those guys, you're talking about Rio Ferdinand, Frank Lampard, Joe Cole. So, but when you're 16 years old and you do that, you think, well, I am. Why am I? You know, they were absolutely right, and they knew what they were doing. So off I went back to Saltdean, and had to find another way. And then I think I'd scored a few goals. I think I'd scored 19 goals in maybe 17 games as a 16-year-old. So there was a bit of talk about going to different places. And I got offered 3 trials. It was Portsmouth, Newcastle United and Millwall. Yeah. I'm a Newcastle United fan. So as soon as that came in, I was like, right, I'm signing for Newcastle. Yeah. We went down to Portsmouth. I always remember Dad driving me down to Portsmouth, got all the way there. This was before mobile phones. So we get there. It had been raining. Walk out to see what's going on. Pitch is waterlogged. I find the groundsman. The trial's off. Did nobody let you know? So that was literally the end of my Portsmouth trial. Wow. Yeah, so I go home. The next trial was at Millwall. Dad couldn't get the time off work, so the one of the directors, a guy called Mark Stevens, agreed to drive me up from Saltdean. He said, I'll drive you up for the trial. So drive up to the trial. This is before I knew anything about nutrition. So we stop at a garage. My pre-match meal for the trial was a can of Coke and a Mars bar. Right. Went out and played against Crystal Palace in a trial game, which was at the reserve level. I'm a 16-year-old kid. I was absolutely woeful. Really? Can't tell you how bad I was. Yeah. And I had one moment in the game. I was awful for about 89 minutes. I had one moment in the game where I went through from halfway and I thought, this is it. This is my moment. Like I can show people what I can do. One-on-one with the goalkeeper. Changed my mind about 5 times. Yeah. Ball bounced just as I go to kick it. Tried to hit it as hard as I can. I missed it. Fell over. Dirt all over me. Wanted the ground to swallow me up. Yeah. Game finishes. Go in. My dad by this point had turned up. He's in the director's box. Sure. My dad's guy from the Caribbean, from Barbados. I think up to that point had never hugged me in my life. As I walked up to him, he gave me a big hug. And it was the hug to sort of say, you messed that one up, son. Yeah. And you messed up your big chance, son. And the director of football came out and said, how do you think you did? And I was dead honest. I said, look, this is way beyond where I'm at. I'm sorry to kind of waste your time. And they said, well, we'd like to offer you a year's contract as a scholar. And I said, I don't understand. Yeah. And they said, oh, no, we've been watching you for weeks. So I didn't know. They'd been coming to my games. And they said, well, we've seen enough of what you can do. We wanted to put you in a situation where you were out of your comfort zone and see how you reacted. And they said, what we've seen today in that 90 minutes is that you showed so much resilience, because we could clearly see you out of your depth. But I said, I was thinking, this is crazy. Yeah. All I did is gave the ball away. They said, oh, yeah, I know. We saw that. Yeah. But you kept trying to win it back. And then you kept trying to offer to get back on the ball. So they said, we can coach you the rest. We've seen what you can do. And I was like, holy, couldn't believe it. Yeah, so get back in the car with Dad and the director. We're on the way back home now. And I'm trying to, they're saying, sign the deal, go on.
Do you think that your dad knew? That's why he gave you the hug.
No. I think he didn't. He hadn't spoke to him. No, he didn't. Wow. He thought I'd messed it up for sure. Really? Yeah, because he knew I was better than I'd shown, but he also knew I wasn't ready for that level, and I just deer in the headlights.
And
panic.
I guess as well, the test is, don't tell him we've been watching him for weeks. We've seen him do well, because this is the real test of resilience. Yeah,
for sure. The way they did it was really smart.
Really,
I didn't understand that at the time.
No,
and even though they'd offered me a contract. It was a 1-year contract as a scholar. The money would have been, I think it was £42.50 a week. Was about $100 a week? Yeah. It was, terrible money, but it wasn't about the money. I just signed it wasn't a pro contract. It was a scholarship contract. Yes. But all the journey home, I was trying to persuade my dad that he should let me go on the trial to Newcastle, because I supported Newcastle. And I was devastated that he wouldn't. He was, no, you've got to take the contract. The contract's there. You've earned this. Yeah. Imagine if you go to Newcastle, don't do well, and then they take the deal away from you at Millwall. So it was a case of sitting down with Mum and Dad when I got back from the trial and talking that through. And they persuaded me in the end that Mill will be the right club for me.
Right.
They were absolutely right, which parents
Yeah.
normally are when you're that
Yes.
age.
So where does Watford come into this?
Yeah, so
then?
Watford was actually before that. Sorry, I've missed. You're right. I've skipped
Oh.
skipped a beat there. So Watford was the first club. I was probably 14, I think, when I got picked up by them.
Yeah.
Was playing well locally.
Yes.
Got into the rip sides, like I said.
Yeah.
And the scouts were coming to watch me. They asked me to come in.
Mm.
That was my first sort of taste of it, and I did really well at Watford.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, again, I'm going to get signed. I scored 11 in 9. A new director of football came in and basically said, "Look, your time is up here. We'll call you. Don't call us," type thing. Didn't really understand what that meant as a 14-year-old. And
No.
my dad had to explain that to me in the car on the way home. You've kind of been let go.
Wow.
And I took that really badly, actually. I can't believe I missed that. But
Yeah.
that was that. After that, I think I gave up for about 3 months.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because rejection at that age, especially when you're talking about dreams and life goals,
Yep.
this is crushing for a 14-year-old.
Yeah, it was. And I, as a young kid, I'm better as I got older, but I used to just believe what an adult would tell me, because I was kind of brought up to respect my elders, and I believed that the director of football knew what he was talking about. So he said, "You're not going to be good enough to be a pro." So I went, okay. So then I stopped playing, because I thought, well, if I can't do that, then I'll do something else. So I'd still play with my mates, but there was no thought of going beyond that.
Sure.
And then, that's when I went back into playing. Found the love again. Mum just said to me, "Just go back and play. Just go back and enjoy your football. Don't worry about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
That'll work itself out, or it won't."
Yeah.
Then I went back to play for Saltdean at 16, and that's when it all kind of fell into place. But yeah, certainly I'd been told no by Watford. But previous to that, I was at the Brighton School of Excellence for a time. That was at the time it was a shambles, and I'd been training with them once or twice a week, and I always remember a coaching session, and there was me and my 2 mates would go all the time, and we loved going. And this training session was going on, and the guy said to me, "Go and do something, son." And I said, I'm not your son. And I wasn't trying to be horrible. I said, I'm not your son.
Yeah.
And he said it again. And I'm thinking, he doesn't know my name. I've been coming here weeks. He's only saying that because he doesn't know my name. I said, "You don't know my name, do you?"
Yeah.
And he went, "Oh," and he was annoyed because I was being uppity.
Yes.
And I said, you actually don't know my name. I've been coming in months. You don't know my name."
Yeah.
And he didn't know my name.
Yeah.
And the 3 of us got in the car, and we all felt the same. And we actually spoke to our parents. Again, this was probably 13, 14 years old, and said, "We don't want to go anymore." And as it happened, one of the other lads became a golf pro, and the other one coaches for England rugby at the moment. His name's Joe Alad, but he had a career as a professional rugby player. So we actually chose the time to leave there.
Right.
Obviously, Brighton now are flying in the Premier League. So that's another story. But at the time, it was the right decision.
100% it was. Yeah, that's really great. Resilience shown. But what I love about it is, finding the love again.
Mm-hmm.
How important was that for you and for anyone who has gone through that, to maybe that's like sometimes like the most simplest thing you can do, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. Because I didn't start kicking the ball around to be a professional. I started kicking the ball around because it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got better at it, and I could make the ball do more things. And it was like, you just fall in love with the football.
Yeah.
And then suddenly that turns into playing with your mates, and then you're playing in a team, and you get all of that side of it, you know, the camaraderie. And that's the stuff you miss when you retire. It's not necessarily the day-to-day football. It's actually the stuff around the training ground, the camaraderie, all your friends.
Yeah.
So I got that as well. So you fall in love with the ball, you got all the camaraderie, all your mates, and then somebody tells you you're not good enough, and you go, "Oh, you know, I just reacted. Okay, see you later." Give it all away. And then it's like, Mum said to me, "Well, why did you get into it in the first place?" Because I was still in the garden knocking the ball around, still practicing my skills and stuff. And she's like, "Well, just go and play with your friends again.
Yeah.
Like, see where it goes. It doesn't matter if it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Are you missing seeing your friends once a week?" And I was like, "Yeah." Well, then no one's stopping you doing that. Just because one guy's decided you're not good enough, you've got to prove to him that you're not. But you might not be ready for that just yet.
Yeah.
So she was right again, as usual.
And so then from scholarship, you've signed this deal 1 year. Then where does that take you next?
Yeah, so you train it. You're kind of in a room here of all the scholars, and then you got the first team room here.
Okay.
And back in these days, I think it was actually a really good thing. You get assigned a professional or 2 pros.
Yeah.
So I had to clean their boots. So
Okay.
I'd go in, I'd meet the guys, and I had my first year, I had a guy called Damien Webber, who was a centre-back in the first team, and I had Nigel Spink, who was a very, very famous goalkeeper who was at the end of his career.
Yeah.
I think he made his debut as a 17 or 18-year-old, he came on in the European Cup final. That was his debut.
Wow.
So you're talking about a legend here. I had to
Yeah.
clean his boots. I was a bit
Yeah.
apprehensive going to speak to those guys, but it was
Yeah.
quite cool the way they did it, because you did get to know two pros in that sense. So I'd go in on a Thursday and say, how do you want your boots done for the weekend? And I'd have to, one of them would say, I just want them clean with water. I don't want anything else on them. And then the other one might go, they need to be cleaned, and then they need to be dried.
Yeah.
And then you need to put some,
Polish
Vaseline or Dub-In or whatever on them to make them look nice.
Yeah.
And then if they weren't packed at the right time, you were in trouble.
Really?
So that was kind of, we were doing that. We were cleaning change rooms. We all had our own jobs as scholars.
Yeah.
And I think it was brilliant. I think it was really good grounding. Like, this is what you need to do. If you want to get from here, it's all this stuff and be better on the pitch.
Like grassroots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Earn your way
in, And I like that.
Respect your elders.
And I did. And I got to know those guys. And, every now and again you get to ask them a question. I never asked enough. I wish I'd have asked more.
Right.
But they always gave good advice. Ultimately they wanted to see you get from here to there as well, because it's going to help them in the long run. So that was kind of the first few months. You're obviously playing youth team football at the same time, and if you do well enough, you get into the reserves, and then you're trying to get into the first team. Now, there was no thought of me getting into the first team in that first year. My thought was, I need to become a pro, whatever that looks like. So do my year as a scholar, do all the right things off the pitch, around the training ground, do all my extras that I can, and make sure that I'm playing well in the youth team to get offered another year. So then at the end of your scholarship, you at Millwall used to congregate in the car park, and then you go up to the boss's office, the gaffer, his name was Billy Bonds, old West Ham legend.
Yeah.
And he'd basically tell you whether you were going to sign or not. So boys would go up to that office, come down the stairs in tears because they'd been let go. And you'd never see them again. Some of those guys never kicked a football ever again. Some of them would drop down to the non-league. Some of them went on and went back to another pro club. There's so many different things that happened. And so I remember being super nervous. I'd broken into the reserve team. At the time I was top scorer in the youth team and top scorer in the reserves. So I'm thinking there's a good chance I'm getting a contract here. So Tim Cahill was in that same squad. He'd gone up the stairs, got offered a pro contract, came down. Everybody was congratulating him.
Celebration.
Brilliant. Another one of my mates, a goalkeeper called Phil Smith, he'd gone up, got his pro contract, and there was 4 or 5 in a row that had gone up and been told, thanks but no thanks.
Wow.
So I'm up next. So I walk up, knock on the door. He goes, come in, and he was big guy. Jesus, he was absolutely... It was so nerve-wracking. He's like, sit down, son. And he goes, how do you think you've done? And I'm just about to start regaling him about how good I'd been and how many goals I'd scored. Yeah. And before I could say anything, he said, I think you're a lazy little... And I was like, oh my God, where is this going? And I just thought, not getting anything.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't usually do this, but he said, there's something about you that I like, but I think you're lazy. So he said, I'm going to give you a month. And if you can prove yourself in that month, there's a contract. If you can't, off you go. So I'm like,
wow.
Okay. So I walk back down, tell the boys, and the boys are like, this never happens. What's going on? I'm like, I'm kind of in limbo. So anyway, run to the phone box to ring my mum, because mum's waiting to see if I've made it as a pro. Ring mum and go, kind of stuck. I've got a month. And she said, well, you better do the business in a month, haven't you?
Yeah.
So anyway, that weekend, we played against, I think it was Charlton, and Jermaine Defoe was playing up front for Charlton.
Yeah.
And I remember everybody was talking about Jermaine Defoe as being the next big thing. And I remember thinking, fuck, I need to do well here. Jermaine, I think he scored a hat-trick in that game. I scored a hat-trick in the game. Then I played in the reserves in the week and scored 4. Yeah. So I scored 7 goals in a week.
That's pretty good.
And it was really cool. And I'd not scored a hat-trick up to that point. So that was really nice. And I got presented with the ball by the youth team boys. And then I got presented in the week with the reserve team coach, presented me with a signed football. The boys had signed it. Yeah. And then when he'd given it to me, he said, you need to go up and see the gaffer. So I'm like, okay. So I walked back upstairs, see the gaffer, sit down, son, same again. I'm like, what's he going to say here? He said, you've had a good week, haven't you? I said, yeah, pretty good. He said, okay, we're going to give you a year contract. So the contract was there on the table. Wow. So he gives me the contract. I've never, ever seen a professional contract in my life. Yeah. I'm fanning for it, pretending I know what I'm doing. No idea. Yeah. All I did is flick to the back page pretty much and looked at what the money said. Yeah. And the money was double what I was on. So it was £90 a week. Yeah. Double your money at any age. I've cracked it. So I've got an agent at this point. Right. And all I knew is you're supposed to let your agent see your contract. That's what he does. And he negotiates a bit more for you maybe. And so I said, Gaff, I've got an agent. Is it okay if I get my agent to have a look at this? And he said, sign the contract. And I'm like, ooh. So again, I'm looking for it thinking, well, the money's double. Like, I
Yeah.
can't really get this wrong.
No.
It's for a year.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a pro. That's what I
Yeah.
came here for. So I signed the contract, hand the contract in. He shakes my hand. Well done, son. Walk back down, tell the boys I'm buzzing. Again, run to the phone box, ring my mum, like she's nearly in tears because she knows this is everything we've ever wanted.
Yeah.
And then we get to the end of the phone call and she goes, oh, what was the money like? I said, oh, I've doubled my money. And she's like, oh, God, I'm so pleased for you. You know, it means you'll be able to save a little bit here, save a little bit there. I said, yeah, cool. She went, where are you going to stay? I said, oh, shit. I said, I didn't even ask that because in my previous contract, you stay in digs. So you stay in in someone's house.
Yeah.
And they'd also covered my travel to go up and back when I wanted to.
Ah.
And she's like, well, £90 is not going to get you anywhere to stay. And I'm like, shit. And she went, what about the travel? I said, yeah, that wasn't in there either.
Oh, no.
So, so by the end of the phone call, I realised that I've signed for less than I was on as a scholar.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. So I go back, knock on the gaffer's door, sit down, what's going on? I said, Gaffer, I've just realised I signed for less money than in the first place.
How old are you at this stage?
I think I was 18.
Wow.
Might have been 18 or 19,
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. And he said, that's football, son. And basically opened the door and sent me back out. So I was, at the time I was staying with a lady called Rita and Ron. Ron was the groundsman. Rita was the chef at the ground.
Yeah.
And they'd been given the nod that I was going to get a pro before I knew.
Really?
So I go back to their house and there's like congratulations up. There's all balloons and banners and everything.
Yeah.
And I just felt like a bag. I made an excuse, said I felt sick and went to bed early, said I couldn't eat dinner and I was devoed. I didn't know what to do. I decided I'd go back in next morning and speak to the gaffer and see if there's anything that can be done. And when I got there to train, the assistant coach saw me again and said, the gaffer wants to see you before I even had the chance to. So I walked back upstairs. And the gaffer said, oh, look, we've had a look at your contract and we're going to actually put in some travel. We're going to put in some accommodation. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, thank God.
And then he said to me, what's the moral of the story? I said, oh, I don't know. He said, make sure your agent looks over your contract next time.
This is real mind games.
Yeah, no, what
and
it was back
first
then.
lessons.
Yeah,
well.
real good. I didn't do that. Didn't make that mistake again. I was not ready to be a pro.
Right.
Mentally, physically, I wasn't good enough.
Right.
So those first few months were really, really difficult.
Okay.
And I remember one of the senior players, a guy called Andy Gray. He played one game for England. Actually, he's one of the guys that got one cap. Great guy. He ended up being my agent later on. But he was somebody who kind of took me under his wing, and I could always speak to him for advice. And
what was the difference between like when you said we
between
ready?
the reserves and the first team?
Well, yeah, like when you said you weren't ready, like what was?
I mean, we just
missing?
heard you did hat tricks. And,
You're playing mostly against your own age,
right?
And now all of a sudden you're in against grown men
mature
who
senior players,
but they're.
Right.
It's funny because they want you to get into their changing room, but they don't want you to take their place.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're in a different position to them, cool, not too bad. But if I was a winger,
okay.
So the wingers are not my friends now.
No.
They think, oh, I might steal a spot from them, so they're not going to help me.
Yes.
And even the guys that were in different positions, if they don't think I'm good enough, it's just a waste of time. They haven't got time to be worried about me because they need to get 3 points on the weekend, and I might hinder that by what I do or don't do in training. So the training sessions were just so much quicker, and you have to think so much quicker. And I just wasn't quite up to that at that moment, and my touch wasn't the best, and I wasn't a great passer, and I couldn't cross very well. I'm a winger, so there was so many parts of my game technically that I wasn't good enough at, and I wasn't ready mentally to be able to deal with all that stuff. So I remember. At the pro level, you don't really pick teams because the coach just hands out bibs. So they'd put 3 piles of bibs. Say we were playing a 3-team game, 6v6v6, they'd put 3 piles of bibs down. Yeah. So I'd go and pick up a bib. If I picked up a bib first, there would not be 5 people that would wanted to come in the team with me. Right. So the coach would have to, everybody else would pick a bib up and there'd be 5 left and they'd have to pick it up because they'd be pissed off that I was in their team. Wow. So then I started taking the last bib. But you could, as I took the last bib, you could see the senior boys go. Yeah. And I remember pulling Andy Gray, the senior player, and said, like, I want to go back to Saltine. Like, I can't deal with this crap anymore. Yeah. And he was dead honest with me. He said, look, you're not ready yet. He said, you can get there, but you're not ready yet. He said, what can you bring that is controllable? So he talked. It's the first time I'd ever heard about sort of controlling the controllables. I said, I don't know, nothing. Like I'd beat myself up, you know. I was worthless in my mind. And he said, you're so fit. He said, you can run all day. He said, so if we're playing these 3-team games and it's about possession, you're going to give the ball away. Make sure you're the first one to win it back. And he said, when he gives it away or he gives it away, make sure you're the first one to win that back for him. And he said, eventually the guys are going to go, well, he's not very good, but geez, he works his bollocks off, and he does a shift.
Yeah.
And amazing advice. Honestly, amazing advice, because within maybe 6 weeks, it got to the stage where I was the hardest worker in the sessions, and people were forgiving me for not being as good. And then on the side, we had an amazing assistant coach called Steve Gritt, who did so much work with us younger players, and he would say, come out in the afternoon. And there was a centre back that was struggling with some bits, and I was struggling with some bits, and when he'd pair us up together, we do 1-on-1s, or we do 2-on-2s, and we do technical work.
Yeah.
And I just eventually just got better.
Yeah.
And, that season was a really tough one. I made my debut at the end of that season in the first team, again, not really ready.
Yeah.
But if he hadn't have given me that advice at that point, I don't know where it would have gone. I think I think the demons might have got me, and I would have probably slid out of the game. So it's close. You need to surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, unlikely mentors are just so incredible. Hey,
they always seem to come up at the right time with the right words, and sometimes they don't even realise
they're sending the message. But
and it's like it's sometimes almost throwaway for them, and then you take it all on. And it was like, I've thanked him. He was that was one of the reasons I went with him as an agent, because I felt like I owed him. So that was like we'll talk about that later. That was later on down the line, but really good guy, and really helped me stay in the game.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm seeing kind of a reflection, because I started out as a professional dancer, and my first contract was where I did my most learning, and I constantly felt I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I need a few more months here, or a bit longer in rehearsal. I definitely hear that. And it's hard when you're kind of your worst own enemy as well. You're battling not only like critics and really honest feedback people who are in charge, but you're battling yourself.
That was my biggest issue, self-talk. And I didn't realise how powerful it was.
Yeah.
My self-talk was amazingly powerful, but nearly always the wrong way.
Right.
Yes.
So I was so good at talking myself out of being good or playing well or feeling good. And then inevitably I wasn't feeling good or playing good, or,
I bet as well now the game's changed so much. There's probably sports psychologists you can see. Or...
There's more, but we're still
lacking?
We're way behind. You look at the New Zealand model, right? It's the 4-corner model. So you've got physical, tactical, technical, and the 4th corner is supposed to be psychosocial.
Right.
But the psychosocial for most coaches that I've ever played with, how are you feeling today, Ives?
Yeah.
Good. Tick. He's fine.
Yeah.
But if I turned up and my leg was hanging off, they'd go, you can't play today.
No.
But they never take into account what might be going on behind the scenes. And then when you go out there and your self-talk's not very good, and you've talked yourself out of playing well, you get dragged at half time. Oh, he's just out of form today, whatever, or maybe he's carrying an injury. They don't look any further than that. So I think we're definitely getting better, but I think we're still miles away from, which is good. It's a good thing in a sense as well, because you go, well, there's so much more potential there.
Absolutely.
So, no, you go.
I just want to ask about the gaffer, right? When he said, you're lazy, I'm going to give you 1 month. So what was it about that kind of pressure that made you rise to the occasion?
And not talk yourself out
Last
of it.
chance?
Maybe. Maybe it was the last chance to learn. I thought, and whether he thought I was lazy or not, I knew I'd put in as much as I could put in.
Right.
Maybe he didn't like my body language. Maybe he didn't like some of the things I did, but I knew that I'd given everything to get to that point. So I thought, well, I'm just going to show him that he's wrong in that moment. And I wish I could have bottled that up and used that when I needed it. Because there were other times I wasn't I didn't have that willpower, and I would talk myself out of stuff for whatever reason. At the right time, I found a way to do that.
So we're going to fast forward quite a lot here in terms of a massive moment, which is the FA Cup final. And if you want to...
tell us about that. So 2004?
2004, yeah.
Who were you playing?
We're playing Man United in the final. It's one of the FA Cup, in my opinion, is the best domestic competition in the world.
Yeah.
It is something that you do think about when you're young, or imagine playing.
Even in New
Wembley.
Zealand, I was like,
overnight you stay up. Everybody tells me that. Yeah, we stay up and watch it with our parents or whatever. So completely get it. But even though you dream about it, you don't really think it's going to happen.
No.
And then you go through, and I become a pro, and I'm doing quite well in the league below the Premier League. But you just think, well, a Premier League club's always going to be in the cup final.
Yeah.
We're at Millwall. We're not bad. Championship club.
Yeah.
Maybe expected to go up if we have a really good season.
Yes.
But we had a good bunch of young players together, and a good lot of older heads who kind of looked after us. And, you know, you go into round 3, which is where you start, and you're hoping that you win round 3 and you get a big team home or away in round 4, so you get a day out, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be great to go to Man U in round 4 or Arsenal and play against Thierry Henry or whoever's the big player at the time.
Yeah.
And then you just go on this run where, you know, I think we had Walsall in round 4.
Yeah.
Well, it should be a big Walsall.
Yeah.
And you have Burnley, who are in the same league as us, and we always used to beat Burnley. So you're like, well, you can beat them. Then you go through to the quarters, and you're looking at the teams in the quarters, big teams everywhere, and the smallest 2 teams were us and Tranmere. We drew Tranmere at home. You're like, what? And then you start going, holy shit, we can actually maybe do. And then we drew at home to bloody Tranmere, and had to go to a replay, and they were a decent cup side, and it was a really, really good game. We managed to win that one.
Yeah.
And then the semi-final was Sunderland, us, Man U and Arsenal. So I remember it. We were in the training ground watching the draw.
Yeah.
And we knew that Sunderland would be in their training ground watching it going, please give us Millwall.
Yeah.
We were doing the same.
Yeah.
And then Arsenal and Man U were going, let's get one of the small ones and meet in the final.
Yeah.
And, you know, it went the right way. And we got Sunderland, who we were above in the league. So we were like, well, we can beat Sunderland.
Yeah.
And we knew, you know, we were not stupid. We knew that getting to a final against one of those 2, Arsenal or Man U, we're probably not going to win it. But we wanted the day out. We were like, let's beat Sunderland. Let's have our day in the sun. And that Sunderland game, I ended up coming off injured in the game. And I remember I was actually on crutches, and I remember being on crutches for the last half hour. I've never been so tired in my life.
Right.
Like that, living it without being able to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was done. The minute I came off, I couldn't have any say on where the game was going to go, and we were defending for our lives, and it was amazing. But when the whistle went, you're just like, we're gonna play in a cup final. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And it was
Millennium Stadium. It's the first one is it the only one that Millwall's gone to as well?
Yeah.
So that's
it's crazy.
It's
mean,
crazy.
it gets talked about, you know, so many years later, 20 odd years later, and I get asked about it nearly every other day, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And were you playing some of your heroes as well? People you looked
absolutely.
up to?
Ruud van Nistelrooy, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Roy Keane. It was a who's who of, you know, the football world.
Young Ronaldo.
Well, this is the thing. Well, so I can tell you the story about that. So the season had finished, and we had 3 weeks between the last game of the season and the FA Cup. So we had a real good time to prepare for Man U. When we won the semi-final, I think we were 4th in the league, trying to get into the Premier League. Yeah. We had, I think, 6 games to go. We won 1 out of 6. Right. We fell apart because everybody was jumping out of tackles and wanted to be ready for the final. And the gaffer was going mad. He was like, I'm going to leave all of you out. None of you. And then I think the game before the final, we all turned it on and we won our last home game. And, you know, everybody was happy. But the plan basically was to try and get into half-time 0-0. Like, we didn't want to go into a cup final and get beat 7 or 8-0 by Man U and be embarrassed. We're like, I'll tell you what, let's be compact, like you see it at the World Cup, you know, be real compact, be really hard to beat, and then we'll go and have a chase in the second half. I was told in the lead up that I would be marking the young Portuguese fella. Yeah. But that's literally how they described him to me, because he wasn't Giggs or Neville or any of the big names. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, no, okay, I can deal with that. I'll be fine. He's younger than me. He shouldn't be too much of an issue. Yeah. 44 minutes, win 0-0. So plan is in place. Yeah. And I get a corner. Ball gets played into the box. We deal with the corner. I'm thinking, we might get a breakaway here. So I think, in my mind, I'm thinking about going up the pitch rather than dealing with what's actually going on. But the ball gets played back out the other side. Yeah. And there's a really good pitch. You can see it on the video. The ball gets swung back in, and Ronaldo runs past me, and you can just see me go, yeah. And now I'm chasing Ronaldo, trying to get back to my spot. Yeah. Ball gets played in, and he just heads it into the net, 1-0.
Ronaldo comes in. Ifill hadn't picked him up. He got in front of him and had a free header. And having just had the chance before, he wasn't going to miss this one.
At half-time, everybody's going crazy. Whose man was that? I'm just sat there on my hands, not saying anything. Yeah. And then we went out second half, and Van Nistelrooy scored twice. Yeah. One was a penalty. One was actually one with today's VAR would have been disallowed because it was offside. Yeah. But it wasn't given on the day, so they beat us fair and square 3-0 in the end. But amazing day. All my family went.
So the mental aspect of that. So you're lining up. You've had all those ups and downs, the demons, and like, I'm not good enough. And, you know, you said you wish you could have bottled that for certain occasions. Sounds like you had a pretty good, you know, apart from that one lapse of concentration, it was a pretty good game.
Yeah, no, did pretty well.
When you're lining up against those guys in the tunnel, at Millennium Stadium, biggest game of the club's thing. Like, what do you say to yourself?
I wouldn't look at them. I barely looked at them. As we walk in out, they're sort of there. I had a quick look to see them and thought, and then I thought, no, just get your body language right. I was nervous but I remember thinking, no, I'm not going to show them I'm nervous. I'm going to pretend that I do this all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely don't. But that was in my mind. There was stuff that had gone on. I'd split up with my ex-girlfriend 1 week before the cup final, and we'd been together for 6 years. So I had a hell of a lot going on.
Wow.
So I was dealing with a couple of things. So then once I got into that tunnel, I'd already made my mind up that I was going to forget about everything but just concentrate on 90 minutes, because I didn't want to play in the final and then resent my ex for finishing with me a week before. So it was almost like, I think that helped in a sense, because it made me really just concentrate on the job at hand. And then when the whistle went, I remember being absolutely gutted, because I was like, we're still not together. Now I've got to deal with that. So but it amazing day, and it took some mental strength because you know what you're going up against, and they're Premier League performers. They do it year in, year out. You know, they're in Champions League finals. They're in. For them, the FA Cup final is not really a thing. No, you know, it's another thing that they're probably going to put in the cabinet. And for us, it was absolutely everything. And we put a lot of work and effort into it. And I think we did okay. But it's one of those games you probably play 100 times, you might win 1 or 2. So we didn't disgrace ourselves.
Not at all.
Good job. I'm so impressed. I bet you have sometimes dreams where you just flash back to that moment, like it
would
have been
100%.
imprinted.
100%. There's a few moments like that in my career, and you just think, I wonder what would happen if I'd actually marked. Probably if I'd have gone in, he'd have out-jumped me and scored anyway. That's what I tell myself, because he's that good. He's still doing it at 41. But you never know. Maybe I'd have got a flick on it and we'd have got in at 0-0 and some miracle, we'd have got something in the second half. Who knows? But I think sports like that. Anyway, you can't help yourself if you're a proper competitor.
Absolutely. So would you describe yourself as competitive?
Very.
And is that part of the mindset that's in the game? Everyone's got their thing. They're competitive. They're in it to win it.
I think so. I look at all... I can't think of too many that have played pro that weren't like that. You know, anything we used to do as a group would be competitive. You know, we had a table tennis table at the training ground. Jesus, there were times when people wouldn't get off the table tennis table. They were supposed to be at training. The gaffer's like, "Where's so and so?" And they're like, "Oh, gaffer, they were just finishing off." And he's shouting at them, and or darts, whatever it was. You just wanted to be the number one amongst your peers.
And so outside looking in, you're at this top level here, and you're doing incredibly well. But privately, you've spoken openly in the past about other things you were dealing with at that time. Can we go to that and talk to that for a bit?
Yeah, there was I was addicted to gambling. I have an addictive personality. Again, you don't understand it at the time. No. So I started with scratch cards at 15. I was doing a paper round at the local shop. I'd get paid £10 and I'd spend it all on scratch cards. Wow. And I'd come home with nothing. Mum was going, "Where? You never got any money." And she had to go up to the local shop and actually say to him, "He's 15 years old. He's not even allowed to buy scratch cards. Can you stop him doing this?" But then it was easy. You know, you give it to one of your mates who's 16, 17, he buys them for you. So that was where it started. My granddad had a history of gambling, lost a lot of money, lost his livelihood through gambling. I think it skipped a generation. My dad never gambled at all, and I got the bug. And I think it's one of those things that's really difficult. I always wondered why I couldn't get addicted to something that was healthy. You know, why can't I get addicted to hard work? or doing more around the house. My wife probably said, "Why can't you get gardening or cooking or something?" It's always something that it's weird. But like I said, didn't really realize it at the time, but it just got worse. The more money I earned, the more I needed to spend to get the same buzz.
Right.
So it was about the buzz then, because you were making good money.
Yeah, it was always the buzz, and I didn't really understand that till I got therapy, and that was sort of into my mid to late 20s. I always felt I didn't have a problem. I was like, "Oh well, I earn the money. It's my money. I can do what I want with it." I'm not in debt per se at the moment. I don't owe anybody any money. I'm not harming anybody else.
And people have different vices, don't they?
No, that's right.
Cars
I had so many friends who were doing all sorts of other stuff that I shouldn't have been doing.
I was thinking headlines in the newspaper.
No, that's right. But mine didn't seem to hurt anybody. But then, you know, I had friends that would always say to me, "Look, it's fine now, but this doesn't last forever. You know, you get to 30, 35 or whatever, or if you get injured and you're out of the game, what do you do then?" You know, for some it's easy. They've started the game late. They've done a degree. They go into something that they knew they were always going to do. But for me, I'd left school at 16. I didn't have a plan, and I should have been better with it. In saying that, I don't think it necessarily affected the football too much.
Mhm.
But again, it's hard to say. How do you know?
Mm.
What would I have been like if I wasn't doing that? So there was some tough times in that period. Like I said, I split up with my ex-girlfriend, then I split up with my now wife for a time. So I was getting therapy for both. I was trying to deal with the breakup of my now wife. We did get back together, obviously, and the football stuff. And again, go back to it, but my self-talk was woeful. I remember I was playing at Crystal Palace. I had all the trappings of fame. I was driving a Porsche. I lived in a nice house. You know, from the outside in, you go, oh, he's nailed it.
Yeah.
And I'd be in the car, actively talking myself out of playing, hoping that the gaffer would leave me on the bench, because Neil Warnock was my manager and he would name the team on game day.
Right.
So you do all your training, you'd get to game day, then he'd name the team. So I'm actually going, in my head, I'm going, oh, God, I'm not ready for today. I hope he puts me on the bench, because I'd feel less pressure.
Yeah.
And I think, well, if I'm coming on for 20 minutes, what can really go wrong? Normally he'd be bringing me on to try and get back in the game. We're 1-0 down.
Yeah.
We're 1-0 down anyway. I can come on and change it or not. Who cares?
Yeah.
Whereas if I start, it's the pressure. And then I'd talk myself out of it. And if he did pick me to start, I'd inevitably be rubbish because I'd already talked myself out of it. I'd get dragged at half time, and so goes the circle. So it was just a horrible time, but I didn't feel like I had the tools to be able to find a way. And back in, I think I was getting therapy, but I would never have told anybody.
No.
Like back in those days, you daren't say a word, because I had two guys in my position that the gaffer's thinking are fine, and I'm the weak one, because I'm seeking help. So I only did it for a certain time, and then thought, no, I don't want to get caught doing this. I'll try and deal with it myself.
People don't think about that because it's so competitive. It's the same in the comedic world as well, and like certain panel shows and just stage time, whatever. They want you at the table to a certain level, but then no one wants to take your place.
Yep.
And then you can't be seen to be shown any kind of I can't do this, because as soon as you're away sick or you're
Gone.
you go on holiday, it's replaced by and they do a great job, and then all of a sudden it's impossible to get back in.
Yep.
But it's so unhealthy, because I bet everybody was battling with something, whether it was mindset,
Absolutely right.
Injuries.
I've had a really, really good friend of mine who played in the first team at the time, a guy called Richard Sadler, wrote a book talking. I lived with him for a time, and he was talking about how he would go to sleep in the afternoon because he was so depressed. He just didn't want to be awake and deal with anything.
Wow.
And I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then I've got another friend who has gone down the counselling route, and he's gone down that route because he struggled so badly.
Yeah.
And again, really, really good friend of mine, had no idea.
Yeah.
And he was one of the people that played in my position. And I'm looking at him going, cool, you've got no problems at all. God, how do you get up for this every single week? You're so good. You're so confident.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No.
But then I look at it, and he was probably thinking the same of me.
Yeah.
Because you shut it off and you don't tell anyone, and you don't tell your mate, for sure.
No.
And it's only after the fact, 20 odd years later, there were loads of us are like, I was dealing with that too. I didn't know how to speak to, didn't speak to anybody, just kind of got on with it. And some are predisposed and understand how to deal with that better than others. And I didn't. So sometimes it was just okay, and sometimes I was in a mess, but didn't tell anybody.
Well, you go.
I was going to ask it. What was it about the pressure? Because I'm thinking you would have been, given a lot of feedback from people like your gaffer and the people who were coaching and training you, but then publicly as well.
I would. It sounds ridiculous now, but it was message boards in my day.
Yeah.
I know when I played well or when I didn't, right? I always knew. I didn't need anyone to tell me.
No.
But then I'd want someone to tell me. And I'd go and search it out. So I'd go on a message board and I'd scroll through all the ones saying that I'd done well.
Yeah.
And I'd find the one that said, that day. And I'd go, yep, that guy's right.
Wow.
And completely, and then the self-talk would start. And then all of a sudden, I'd convinced myself that not only had I not played well, but I shouldn't be playing next week. And I wasn't good enough. It's like this imposter syndrome that was brought on by my own self-talk, and sometimes others.
Yeah,
but mostly I was looking for it.
So from dealing with everything yourself, and then actually recognizing I've got a problem here, I need to really look at.
Yep.
Was that from other people making that decision for you, with particularly like the gambling? Did it kind of spiral a bit out of your control at that point?
Yes and no. There were times when it was really bad, and there were times where it was completely under control. Yeah. There were times when I completely stopped gambling. again, I was mega competitive. So if I decided I was going to stop, I was stopping. So I'd stop for 3 months and not thinking anything of it. And then one thing would get me back in. Somebody would go, I want to go to the races tomorrow. And I'd just go and I'd start again.
Yeah.
Then I'd be gambling for a few months and then stop. And then this carried on right until I came out to New Zealand. I came out to New Zealand when I was 29, in 2009.
Yeah.
I came out on my own for a few months just to check. Left my eldest Romy at home with my wife, and they came out sort of 4 months I think after that.
Yeah.
And the plan was, I was still gambling in England, but the plan was that I'd stop when I got here. And for I gambled a little bit, but it was nowhere near as bad as at home. And then I got injured at, what was I now? 33. I ruptured my Achilles, and that was my last game for the Phoenix. And my wife had to go back home to England for a funeral. I was literally on the sofa looking after our daughter, and I'd at that point not gambled for months. And I just sat there and I kept seeing these adverts on TV for credit cards and gambling. I'm like, oh. So I couldn't walk, couldn't get out of the house. So I went online, applied for a credit card that would come within 24 hours. It turned up the next day, $10,000 limit, spent $10,000 in an afternoon.
Wow.
And then I was back in. But again, wasn't really thinking about it, but I was looking for the buzz because I wasn't training. I wasn't playing. I had nothing at the end of the week to fill that void. And then I was like, I need to really think about how am I going to control this. Spoke to my wife about it. We said we'd try and do it. When she got back, she wasn't happy, but understood. That's probably the only time she's actually been pretty chill about it. I think she realised that I was really struggling with the injury, and I knew I was probably never going to play professionally again. So it was that transition had just started, and that's the hardest part of my life by a mile, dealing with all that. But just to talk about the gambling quickly, I was approached by a guy called Andrew Garbutt when I retired, sort of 2 years later, and he worked for Fuji Xerox.
Yes.
And he said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "I'm probably going to go into coaching. I don't know what else to do." And he said, "Have you ever done any public speaking?" I said, No, that's absolutely not for me. I'm not doing that. And he said, look, I can help you put a presentation together. All I want you to do is go and present in schools to some kids, and I'll be trying to sell the principal a Fuji Xerox machine." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he said, "And I'll pay you for that." And he said, "I'll pay you to do a coaching session as well." So I'm like, okay. So I did that. At the same time, another guy called Jess Ibram, who was the head coach of the Phoenix Academy, asked me to come in and speak to the players. And again, no, I'm not doing that. No, thank you. And he kept bugging me. And I'm like, oh, okay, what do you want? He said, listen, these kids just want to see you. Just come in and say whatever you feel. And I'm like, I've never done this. So just talk about your career. Just talk about your career from start to finish. So I'm like, all right. So I drove down. It was at Scots College at the time. And I get in the car park and the self-talk started. And I'm like, I'm going to ring him. I could see him. He was out on the training ground with the team. I'm just going to ring him and say the car's broken down. I'm gone. And I'd put all these notes together. So I thought, all these bullet points. And then I decided I'm not doing it. And then I'm just about to ring him and the radio was on. And the guy on the radio, I'll never forget this. The guy on the radio said, "Okay, that's me, finished for the day, listeners." He said, "I want you to do one thing. I want you to do one thing where you step out of your comfort zone and just think about how you feel when you've completed that." It's actually making my hair stand on even talking about this. And I'm like, he's talking to me. That's a message to me. So I jumped out. I said, "We've got to do this right now." I left my notes in the car, ran in, and just talked for 45 minutes. I'd never done it. Never done it. I hadn't even started the school stuff by this point. Went in, did it, and no idea how it went. I don't know what the feedback was like. Can't even remember any of that. But I came out in that car park and I felt unbelievable. It's like, wow, that's as close as I've ever had to football. That is amazing. So then that led on to Ben Sigmund, a former teammate of mine. He approached me. I'd always told the stories about gambling to my mates. He said, "You need to tell the gambling stories to people that might be struggling. Would you come in and speak to," at the time it was the Wellington Lions he was working with. I'm like, "Ooh, I don't really want to do that." And he's like, "Same thing. You've already done this. Just tell your story." And he said, and this was really good advice. He said, "If you miss a bit out, go back to it later because they don't know you've missed a bit out."
No,
because that was the thing I was worried about. It's like, I need to have a speech. He's like, "No, just get some pictures up and talk to the pictures." Went in, did it. That led to me I've done the Crusaders twice, the Chiefs, Highland. It's been a great time. No football talks. It's been rugby, all these rugby players, and just go in and tell my story. A guy called Steve Simmons worked at the Hurricanes and the Lions. He'd heard my story. he said, I need you to go and speak to all the player development managers that look after the clubs, the Super Rugby clubs in New Zealand. So I went there. There was All Blacks people there and all sorts. A bit nerve-wracking. Did the talk. He came up to me after the talk with another lady, and they were like, Steve was like, that's the second time I've heard that. I love your story. We need to get you out there speaking to more people. And I'm like, thanks very much. And he said, tell me something, though. He said, are you still gambling? I said, yeah. And he said, I said, yeah, but Steve, at no point do I say, don't do this or don't do that. I said, look, this is just a cautionary tale. Yeah. And he said, imagine if you could write up a number on the board of the days that you weren't gambling, how powerful that would be. I'm like, and in my presentation, I've got a picture of my wife and my kids as well. I'll talk about that and moving. And he said, I want to meet your wife. I said, oh, why? And he said, what an amazing woman she must be to deal with all your I started laughing. And he said, you've got to remember, and I always like this, he said, you've got to remember, he said, when she got with you, you'd have been fit, good looking, and a professional footballer. He said, you're none of them anymore. Yeah, he's brilliant. And he said, and she's hung around. And I'm like, and I said, Steve, I've never really thought about that. I thought she was the lucky one. And then he went, do me a favour. He said, on your way home, have a think about what we've spoken about. Yeah. And he said, buy her some flowers. And I said, listen, if I buy her some flowers, she's going to think I've cheated or gambled. And I said, I'd rather tell her I've cheated at this stage, I think. And he said, no. So I drove home, and as it happened, my bloody radio was broken on the car. So I had 2 hours from Welly to the Wairarapa just thinking about these words going around in my head. And I got to Masterton, straight to the flower shop, bought some flowers, went home, gave her the flowers, told her the story, and I said, I'm never going to gamble again. And she burst out laughing because I've told her that 1,000 times. And I said, I get my hands held up. I said, I don't know why, and I don't know if it's because I'm going to be competitive about it or whatever, but I know I'll never ever gamble again. Wow. And this was coming up 9 years ago, and I've not had a bet since.
Amazing.
So a lot of love to Steve. You know, same thing. Somebody gets you at the right time with the right message. So many of my friends and family had told me to stop gambling. Yeah. And for whatever reason, Steve managed to get me bang on the right time. And it just stayed in.
I've got story. My hair's a standing on end now.
Oh wow,
that's incredible.
That's a great story.
So by the way, I ring Steve quite often. Not every. I used to ring him every year, but I ring him quite often on the anniversary and go, another year, mate. I'm still going, and he's like, oh, class. So
that's so fantastic.
And so now, to keep kind of your mindset going strong for all the different things you're doing, hosting and coaching and all the new work you're doing as well, which I want to talk about. What is it when you wake up and you go, ugh, I have one of those days where it's just like not a great start. What do you do?
Setback or,
I think,
what are your practices?
Because I've gone more into the mental health space, which we'll talk about, but I feel like I have to find a way. Just like I want to help somebody else because there must be other people going through the same stuff. Yeah.
So being of service.
Yeah, kind of.
And do you still kick a ball around? Is that still
I have to. I don't know what it's going to be like. I'll play walking football. I'll be dead when I'll be still going right up until the last day. I'm playing for Greytown at the moment. I'll be playing this weekend. Yes. I just absolutely adore playing football. Yeah. Coaching's great, but it's not even close in my opinion. Yeah. The mental health stuff gives me a buzz too, because I think I look at my coaching career and I think that's the space I'm best in, because I think it can make the biggest difference. Mm-hmm. And again, certainly at the pro level, once you get to the pro level, everybody can do the fundamentals. You don't become a pro if you can't pass, kick, dribble, shoot, all of that. Right. But there must be something that separates the good from the great. Yeah. And I look at, it's topical now with the World Cup on, but Ronaldo and Messi, there's a reason they've been at the top for so long. And it's not because they're necessarily better than everybody. They are, but they can find a level of consistency. So it must be that. Yeah. Because they do it week in, week out. Yeah. So that's got to be the difference maker.
When the crowd's on you and the lights are on, everyone's good in the gym, everyone's good on the training pitch, but when...
Can you do it? Yeah, when you're in the arena and one mistake can cause, a nation's downfall. That's the level. And they manage to do it all the time. So it must be that.
Oh, yeah. Because when you think about, I've seen missed penalties, and, look at David Beckham, kicking out against Argentina, goes from villain to hero. Yep. There's something in that resilience, getting back, controlling the controllables, I guess. You go back to basics to then how do we help those people? And so let's talk to that now. So what is this, obviously this drive and this passion that you've got now? talk about this whole world you're in now.
Yeah, so obviously with myself and my business partner, his name is Gary Hewson.
Yeah.
He's a clinical psychologist that specialises in sport.
Yeah.
The story really is my daughter Bethany, my youngest, and his son John used to play against each other in sort of under 11s teams, I think.
Yeah.
And then they played in the same team, and we'd just be on the side. I didn't know him particularly well, but he'd pick my brains about my professional career, and I'd definitely pick his brains about the psychology behind it. And I quickly realised, wow, if I'd have had some kind of help like this, imagine what I could have done. I played 480 odd games as a pro, but I honestly feel I left 200 behind from not quite having it. So I'm thinking, if I'm dealing with that, what are the kids dealing with today when you've got add in social media and you've got all these external pressures that I didn't have to deal with?
Yeah.
So we'd have these talks every couple of weeks, and I really look forward to going and watching the game, not just to watch my daughter, but to have these catch-ups.
Yeah.
And we realised that let's do something. Let's try and put something together. And we talked about writing a book. Would it be a podcast?
Yeah.
Would it be just getting ourselves out and doing presentations at the local schools? And then we're like, well, why don't we do it all?
Yeah.
And see where it ends up. And we have written a book that will be out soon, but the platform is called SportBrain. It's www.sportbrain.org.
Yeah.
And the premise of it is really mental skills training, and it's aimed at youth. It can be used for anybody. We've had adults use it, but it's really aimed at youth because I want the sort of juniors and youth to get it so that when they do get into their adult life, it's like, well, I know how to deal with that self-talk. I can turn that round.
Yeah.
I've been doing visualization since I was 12 years old. The tools are there, just like passing, receiving, all those bits and pieces.
Yes.
Why can't you learn that at a younger age and have that go with you throughout life? So that's what we aimed at. And we've got an online platform. Basically, you go on, you can use your phone. It takes about 4 or 5 minutes to do an assessment. You answer 40 odd questions, and it gives you a report. Like a 20-page report, breaks down everything that you've done. We measure 11 domains: confidence, anxiety, planning and preparation. I won't go through all of them.
Yeah.
And then once you've got that, that's basically your roadmap. And what we found is when we did the research, most people do the assessment, and then you use the assessment to maybe go to a psychologist. Right. So we want to make it manageable for people so that a lot of people can't pay $250 for an hour. So we're like, well, what if we could make it cheaper than that, but you get a year's worth of our stuff?
Yeah.
But what is our stuff? So we're like, well, we need to give them the tools. So we built modules, and basically the module was in sort of 3 parts. You've got an introduction that kind of tells you what the brain is doing in that moment. So it explains the fight, flight, and freeze, and how can you turn that off to get your prefrontal cortex back online. And so that helps with your scanning and your decision making and all those bits and pieces. So that can help coaches, that can help parents, and we're building all the time.
I think it's so interesting because so much of what you've just shared there, it speaks to what I do, which is nervous system work with yoga.
Oh, yeah.
But I've seen so often yoga fall over in terms of like a CrossFit gym trying to introduce yoga because it's a very different approach.
Yep.
But at the heart of it, it's the nervous system.
Yep.
And so being able to really communicate it to people who are perhaps more in the sports field, it's really relatable and understandable. Yep. Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yeah. And so because I went from playing quite competitive sports then into stand-up comedy, and I took a lot of the sports elements of getting ready for a game into the before going out on stage, going out in front of this audience that you have to try and make laugh, or a corporate gig or whatever, just kind of like the nerves that you felt with the speaking and things. All the comedians used to be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? And what I was doing is I was stretching.
I know. I was going to say, was it stretching?
I was stretching.
I'd see you stretch before a show.
I stretched before a show and I was like, why is that? So because every time I have nerves in my body, I remember being nervous in front of a game.
Yep.
And I remember doing a warm up, and it was just, and like doing some hamstrings, some quads, getting
it would just get you ready, wouldn't it?
Just get me ready.
Absolutely.
And so those things, which I learned from 12, 13, which I didn't even know was helping me later, I know for a fact is going to help these kids.
Yeah, because they're in the body. They're not in the mind. They're in the body. Yeah.
And they will do this automatically. And I don't even think it's going to just be for sports. I think it's going to be for work.
We actually talk about that. So where we thought the bit, we're really new, so I'm not saying we've done anything yet, but where the business has sort of gone, we thought just going to be an online platform, that's it. But we've got it out to people. They've done the assessment, and then schools are ringing us going, can you come in? Can you do a workshop? And we're like, not really what we were looking for, but let's go. Now we're doing the workshops. We're like, actually, this is really cool. Let's get out. as far and wide as we possibly can. We've made the assessment and the report free. So anybody can go online and do the assessment, get their full report to know where they are. And then if they want to, they can do the modules. But if
Correct.
they don't, they can at least take that away and go,
Yeah.
well, here is, because they might have, you might have a psychologist in the
Yep.
school.
Yep.
You might have a psychologist at the
Yeah.
club. Cool. But then the psychologist can have a full report and go, oh, actually, this
Yeah.
helps me a lot. So
I love
we've
that.
had psychologists actually reach out to us and go, well, we'd like to use this
Yeah.
as a tool
Yeah.
to be able to
Wow.
assess. So yeah, it's gone off on all different places where we
That's
didn't expect it to.
Amazing.
But really enjoying it. As you can see, a big smile on my face.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this gives me a buzz. This
Yes.
is what I don't know if I'm addicted to it, but this is what I was saying about earlier.
Well, this is
The
a good thing to be
I need,
addicted
yes,
to.
it's pretty healthy.
Yeah.
So I needed to
Yeah.
find something, and I think I've stumbled across it.
I have one other question.
Oh, go on. Yeah.
Do you miss England?
It's funny. I went back to England through, what was it now, 5 weeks ago for the first time in 12 years.
Okay.
I miss things.
Yeah.
I miss the food. I miss
Yeah.
some of the culture. I miss some of my friends.
Mhm.
Most of my family are in New Zealand.
Right.
I couldn't live there.
Yeah.
Definitely couldn't live there. It was really cool to go back. And
Yeah.
I said to a lot of my friends, I said, look, I'm going to make sure one way or the other, I'm going to get back
Bit more regular.
way sooner.
Yeah.
Way sooner. Because that was really nice to see them.
Because it's such a football crazy.
Parts of that I miss. Yeah, I got to go into my
place.
old clubs. I went into
Yeah.
to Millwall. They treated me amazingly. It was
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. Went to their end of season awards. Went to their last game of the season.
Yeah.
They were in the playoffs. It was a brilliant time. I went
Yeah.
into a friend. He's the head coach of Cambridge United. Went in there. So I got my football fix.
Totally.
And then the timing was good because you come back and you got the World Cup. So
Mm.
pretty happy with all that. But yeah, I don't ever see myself living back there. If I'm
Same
honest.
as me. I used
Okay.
to live in England,
Yeah.
and I'm similar. I haven't been back. I've been back once in 18 years, but
Yeah.
I grew up, and my dad's obsessed with football.
Yeah.
It was everywhere, and then I moved to this rugby nation, and it's interesting.
Very different.
Very different, but
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
We're putting a book together as well, like a handbook of resilience.
Oh, nice.
What would you put as like a bit of advice for somebody in that book?
Ooh.
It's a tough question, I know, but
Yeah, to narrow it down is tough because there's probably
Yeah.
a couple of things like there's the
oh, you can
resilience-
do 2 or 3. If you
Yeah,
like.
I think the controlling the controllables is pretty important when you're trying to manage self-talk.
What took us through that?
No, because I think you get too worried about things that are out of your control, and then all of a sudden you're trying to control them, and then it's just a mess in there.
Yeah.
Like, how can you do that if you can't concentrate? So I always sort of think, well, actually, there's no benefit in that. It actually doesn't matter. I'll park that over there. What can I? When I'm playing football, for instance, there's not. If you ever watch me, I very, very rarely speak to a referee about a decision because, like, I've never seen a referee turn around and go,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're right. Yeah, I've made
Yeah.
a mistake there." So it's like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the weather.
Yeah.
What can I control? And it's not even how I play, but I can control communicating with you.
Yeah.
I can control the effort that I'm going to put in.
Mm.
So I think really trying to control the controllables, which will help your self-talk.
Yeah.
And then self-talk has probably been the biggest. It's probably had the biggest influence on me in both ways.
Yeah.
I'm now learning to control it, and I think it's having a big influence on where I'm going to go.
Mm.
But I think it's led to some of the biggest lows I've ever had in my career.
Mm.
And then probably the other one, and it goes back to the message from the guy on the radio, whoever he was.
Yeah.
It's stepping out of your comfort zone. Like, we all, it's horrible, but once you do it, the feeling afterwards is that's a buzz.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I still get that with speaking, with public speaking. Like leading up to, I'm a bit like you. I've got a little
Yeah.
routine. I do it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
bust the out. And
Yeah.
right, here we go. And,
Yeah.
and I'm, for the first couple of minutes, and then all I ever need is one person in that room to be listening. That's all I think about. If I can affect one person in this room, I've maybe done enough today.
Yeah.
And you get that one person who's nodding away with you, or you can see that you're getting a little bit of eye contact, and I'm like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I've done enough today. So it's
Amazing.
those moments of stepping out of your comfort zone. You've got to do that. It doesn't have to be every day,
Yeah.
but if you can adhere to it, if start at once a month,
Yeah.
start once a year. If you're not doing it at all,
Yeah.
start somewhere and just keep building. If you can get to once a day, amazing. Geez, imagine what you could
Yeah.
achieve if you're doing that. I don't know if that's too much. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Get the balance right.
100%.
Yeah, they're the two.
Amazing, fantastic. Paul Ifill, such an honour to have you in the,
Thanks for
on the
having
show
me.
today.
I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks for your time. So Paul Ifill,
I'm so glad we got to chat to him.
yeah, it was really important to chat to him. Like what he's doing now, it's so interesting to know that it's like a human default setting, negative talk. and focusing on the one negative comment rather than the 99 positives.
I think it's always so fascinating when we talk to people and it comes up time and time again, the stress and how we handle stress. It comes down to resilience. And he is such a key spokesperson for it, from having gone from elite athlete level and knowing how it feels to be in the, the locker room or in the changing room, getting ready for a game, going out that tunnel, and then being your worst critic and into the arena.
Yeah, and he's been there. And it's also like, you have those top tier people that he's played against.
Yeah, it's like incredible.
It's really incredible, but there is something that they have, or that they either have, but I've also watched a few, and I've been lucky enough to talk to a few different elite people. Sometimes as well, they don't even think about it. It's just...
They don't overthink it.
They don't overthink it. They just simplify it. Like often, and that's why sometimes they don't actually make the best coaches or managers, is because they just go, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do the thing.
It's like when someone says to me, oh, just relax, take a deep breath. And I'm like...
Yeah,
what?
Yeah.
Don't tell me to relax.
Yes.
I'm a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's hard because if I remember when we were interviewing Hayley Hull and she went, just do the audition. What's going to happen? It's fine. And I remember thinking, but I have a full-on PTSD moment when I do an audition. But it's just showing that we're all different and we all have different windows of tolerance for stress.
Yes.
And just whatever it is, some people can handle a bit more, or perhaps their environment shaped them slightly different, or their wiring is different.
Well, for me, like, I know that I can handle a lot of stress. Or
You can,
I can, but it's not good for me.
Well, your body starts to say, hold on.
My body starts to go.
Your mental resilience is so tough, but your physical body is starting to go, oh, no more.
Yeah, so it's kind of getting that balance right as well.
I'm different. I think my physical body and health has always been pretty good.
Yeah.
But my mental resilience, this is exactly why I love sitting down in the room with people, because I feel so inspired.
Yeah.
And it's not to hear someone's story and go, wow, that was hard. That makes my life feel easier. It's just applying what they're saying to our own lives and my life. And I've learned so much from each guest, and Paul was no different. I was thinking about the radio and that unlikely message.
Yes.
I'm like,
the most unlikeliest of mentors coming
unlikely mentors, and those moments I really love hearing too, because it was giving him goosebumps. It was this moment he could recall. Like we can all think about moments where someone said something to us and it landed for whatever reason. It didn't in the past, but that moment it did, and you rose to the challenge. And he slayed that dragon and he went and did the thing, and now he's found this whole incredible livelihood and purposeful work
outside of himself.
Yeah, outside of football too, because when you are that elite and you have done everything professionally for 17 years, what are you going to do next? You're too young to retire, and it's still a lot of growth left to have and different experiences in life.
And when you get to a like Millennium Stadium where he played the FA Cup final
with thousands,
90,000, like it's an arena, and half of that arena would have been filled with his fans supporting him. And as he said, he went back to Millwall and he was treated like a king, as he should be back there, because he did so well for that club. That's hard to get that watching the Chase at 5 o'clock in the afternoon having a cup of tea. You've got to where is that going to?
Absolutely.
How are you going to get that buzz back? And that's really hard, and that's another thing people don't look at. But and as you can see why gambling would be a thing of like, oh, I'm going to go to that, especially when you're injured and coming back. But it looks like, and it sounds like, and I really hope that he has found that positive thing that he's addicted to, which he joked around. Why can't it be a positive thing? Because I think this is it. This is going to help lots of people. So anyway,
it can unlock potential.
Yes,
for sure.
Paul Ifill, fantastic, brilliant guest. We really loved having him on. Hopefully you got some things. We'd love for you to comment, follow, like, and subscribe to all the channels. We really do appreciate it. When you do that, it helps this channel grow, and we can get on people like Paul Ifill and great guests that we want to get on as well. So thanks for watching Stand Up Again with Sophie and Nick Ratto, and we'll see you next week.